Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Ronayne, President of University Circle Incorporated. It is good to be with you this afternoon, and thanks for joining in by Zoom on our spring meeting of University Circle Incorporated. Organizationally, we're in 64th year now here in University Circle as a community service corporation, serving the spectacular square mile and working with our 40+ institutions in University Circle, our neighborhood residents here in the Circle and in greater University Circle, and our businesses and our city generally. And we're proud of the work we do. And we are proud that I'm seeing on the participant ranks here, we are now up over 100 participants, and I think growing to 200 who have registered today. So I want to thank you in advance for registering and being a part of our spring meeting. And welcome our board members, our staff members, our institutional partners, our residents, business partners, philanthropic partners, and again, neighbors here and neighbors near and neighbors far off. We're excited you're here. We're excited also to welcome Ronald Ferguson back to Cleveland, a Cleveland expat, never far from his heart. Dr. Ron Ferguson is a faculty director of the Achievement Gap Initiative at Harvard University and author of the book called The Formula, Unlocking the Secrets to Raising Highly Successful Children. You're going to be hearing from Ron Ferguson later this afternoon with Greg Deegan, our Director of Education. We are celebrating education this year. We are celebrating our students as we do every year, but we know what a year they've been through. It's been a year like no other, and the quest to continue to engage our students and to create enriching additive learning opportunities is what we do. And we're going to talk more through this hour and a half about how we do it, how we've done it through this challenge of COVID-19, and how we better prepare for the future to connect in times like these or in any times such that our students are really thriving in University Circle and thriving in Cleveland because of University Circle. That'll be more of our subject today. So we look forward to you being with us for that hour and a half and discussing strategies for success. But this is a reunion, always a reunion, as is our November annual meeting. We feel your family, and we extend our warm greetings after really being away from you for quite some time. We welcome you back digitally. We look even more forward to the days that we're back live. To my staff, UCI and the UCPD, thank you for your steadfast community service. And to our Board of Trustees, thank you for your continued service and all you give to this organization with your time and your ideas and your treasure. We thank you for all you do. And with that, it's my honor to introduce and to kick off this meeting today, Craig Martahouse, our board chair. I want to thank Craig for all he does for this organization to commence, just to kick off today's meeting with some welcoming remarks, and then I'll be back. Craig, if you're on the line, among the 100 participants, I'll yield here to you. Thanks, Craig.
Hopefully you all can hear me. Hopefully this is our last virtual meeting. Those of you at UCI know that I'm really not a big fan of these, but you know, we have to do what we have to do. I, for one, can't wait until we can get back to doing this in person. I'm happy to report that, you know, throughout the challenging year, the staff at UCI has really stayed on task and has done a great job. We have put together a great program for you today that covers some exciting plans that you'll hear more about, that highlights some recent achievements, and that shares some good news. So, and we've also have a great speaker here that will address some important issues that I'm sure all of you will find to be of interest. So welcome, thrilled that you're taking the time to be part of this, and take it away, Chris.
Thank you, Craig. And again, thanks for all you do. And we are really glad you're here, and our participant numbers keep climbing. So to the 103 participants who are out with us, thanks for joining us today. Again, a sunny day like this presents some opportunity cost of being on a Zoom. I agree with Craig. We're looking forward to our live engagement later. So we want to kick off our meeting with some great news. News you may have already, and I'm going to begin by talking about our distinction from last week on Friday, May 7th. University Circle was given the distinction of America's Best Arts District. Most of you have heard this, but we can't celebrate it enough. The Reader's Choice 2021 USA Today 10 Best. We were in the running in the top 10 for a number of weeks. And then lo and behold, University Circle was announced on Friday as America's Best. You know it, you know why, you know what's in your front yard, and now the rest of the world knows. A public vote over the course of 4 weeks propelled University Circle to the #1 spot. We had tremendous community support here locally during the voting process and nationally. Arts are a part of who we are as our neighborhood. It's everywhere. Fine arts museums and galleries, film, outdoor art, orchestral art. In fact, I brought Carlos Kalma through the neighborhood with Paul Hogle yesterday, our new conductor maestro at the Cleveland Institute of Music, and he was amazed at the proximity of all the art in this neighborhood. The schools for the arts, handmade arts with things like Parade the Circle. And again, the events that we celebrate and showcase who we are every year with Parade the Circle, or WOW, or Holiday Circle Fest, or our Chalk Festival. You see art everywhere, and it's why University Circle was recognized as America's Best. We take that very seriously. That's now your line, wherever you go, wherever you travel. That is your line to use. It is about really showcasing what you'll see when you get to Cleveland, Ohio. Dallas Morning News ran a story over the weekend on Saturday. I caught a connection from a gentleman here in Cleveland who had family in Dallas. He said we were on front page of their arts and entertainment section, and the front page news was Dallas came in third, and then behind Cleveland University Circle. So that out-of-town news is what we're looking for. It helps us develop our cultural tourism and our destination strategies. Congratulations. This is all of your distinction, and I'm glad to kick off the spring meeting with that great news. So I think we ask ourselves the question, though, on a serious note, what does this distinction really mean for our residents, for our students, for our community? Well, it's, I think, our opportunity right in front of us to better engage, to continue to connect, to bring forth content that gives experiences such that our students are better for being near and amongst all this incredible art. So as much as we shout out to our museums and cultural institutions, we shout out to institutions like the Cleveland School of the Arts or the Music Settlement, institutions that are in the everyday business like Center for Arts Inspired Learning, of encouraging students in nearby neighborhoods to take in the arts, to connect with the arts, to engage in the arts, and to be artists. That's what you do. And I want to thank all of our institutions on the line today who not only go into the reasons and why content-wise we are America's Best Arts District, but who connect that arts experience to our students in the CMSD and in other local school systems throughout Greater Cleveland. Thank you. The faces I know behind the masks, the smiles, are what make this place special. When a student's eyes light up about what's possible, about what they might see at one of our institutions and what they carry home to their schools and create as young artists in residence here in Northeast Ohio. This is where we think the Arts District really matters in terms of its local impact on the lives of young people around us. And we're also glad that everybody else around the world knows it's time to get yourself to University Circle and engage in this experience that we call home. So, connect. I'm going to talk a little bit about ways in which recently, since we last gathered, we at University Circle Inc. in partnership with our local institutions and community partners are connecting. A very exciting thing happened Friday, April 30th. It was Arbor Day, and we planted the first Jesse Owens memorial tree. Memorial tree because it was a tree grafted from one of the 4 saplings that Jesse Owens, Olympic gold medalist from Cleveland, Ohio, from The Ohio State University, brought home to Cleveland after, in defiance of Hitler, winning it all. Brought home 4 saplings, one of which we know survived. It was planted at Rhodes High School. It was the track in Old Brooklyn, community of Cleveland, that Jesse trained on. He ran at East Tech. He trained at Rhodes. He ultimately ran at Ohio State, and you know the rest is history. You may not know all aspects of Jesse Owens' life history, but he actually worked for the Cleveland Recreation Department upon returning in the 1940s. He was an ambassador throughout the world, a sports ambassador, but an ambassador generally, as designated as sports ambassador by President Eisenhower, and ultimately President Ford gave him the National Medal of Honor. But the connection is about connecting history in the good times and bad for Jesse Owens to students. And if I could go back to that last slide, I just want to recognize that students from both schools at which Mr. Owens ran, at East Tech and at Rhodes High School, joined CEO Eric Gordon, Jill Koski of Holden Forest and Gardens. Thank you, Jill, who I think is out there today. Jeff Forespi at Old Brooklyn Development Corp. Bashir Jones, our councilman, and a surprise guest, Tyrone Owens. He was a second cousin to Jesse Owens and lives right here in Cuyahoga County. The students planted the tree with Holden Forest and Gardens. They'll nurture that tree. Moreover, they'll tell stories about the day they were here, and they'll tell stories in the future than when they come to, and the next slide shows, a seating plaza that will reflect on the life and times of Jesse Owens. Again, a hero who won 4 gold medals at the 36 Olympics, a hero who brought home pride and glory to his home country, but in fact wasn't treated well in many of the years after coming home, ultimately prevailed and better recognized ultimately by President Ford with the President's Medal of Honor for his service to his country in what was more than Olympic Games at the time. He represented all the good, and he came from Cleveland, Ohio. So we will be developing a seating plaza in the Rockefeller Park. This is UCI in concert with Holden Forest and Gardens and the Holden Parks Trust and Cleveland City Council, the mayor's office. We'll be putting together a seating plaza at the Rockefeller Park Lagoon. Interestingly, around the lagoon is a 200-yard track that essentially could be a simulation of Jesse's run, one of his 4 events in the 200-yard. He also, the plaza will be placed right next to his friend, a person he mentored by name, Harrison Dillard Path. The Harrison Dillard Path is the green line you see to the right, just next to the plaza. Harrison Dillard himself, here from Cuyahoga County, Highland Heights, lived out his years, won 4 gold medals after Jesse's 36. Mr. Dillard won in the 40s. So 2 Olympians, 2 products of Cleveland, 2 huge success stories that maybe we don't say enough about, tell the stories of struggle and triumph. And that's what we're going to do at this plaza. So we're excited, but it's a way mostly to connect to the community and to connect to particularly our students. So in addition to the 2 high schools I mentioned, we had elementary schools from throughout the greater University Circle area, students present that day, and they'll tell that story to their family. And as they come to this plaza, they know they were a part of this, and this is a story that'll live on. Again, the operative here is education and connection. Another connection we've made since we last met was the Cozad-Bates House. Today, we're proud to say we took down any of the construction fencing that was still on site. And today we celebrate the Cozad-Bates House as a publicly accessible space. I just came through the slide that showed Joan Southgate, for whom we named this walk. Joan Southgate is now in her 90s. We've told this story at a few meetings before, but it always deserves being retold. Joan Southgate in the early 2000s, then in her 70s, walked 520 miles from Ripley, Ohio, in the Ohio River, through Cleveland, the place known as Hope, in and around Lake Erie, ultimately to St. Catharines, Ontario. She made that walk in honor of those who walked before her, encourage those who walked on the Underground Railroad through Ohio, through the cover of night, those who were sheltered here in University Circle, a place known up north for its anti-slavery abolitionists. And we tell the story of the families and the freedom seekers at the Cozad-Bates House as we are now opening it. It wouldn't have happened without you and your support and the state of Ohio and the board members who've helped all along the way and university hospitals who gifted us this house. This place matters. This place tells a story. Southgate Walk tells the story of Joan, a living legend literally in our midst. And these are the stories that connect to next generation. Whether it's Jesse Owens or Harrison Dillard or Joan Southgate, our stories connect. And particularly our stories of men and women, freedom seekers finding freedom through the hospitality of those who lived here in the circle, families like the Cozads, who literally helped freedom seekers find freedom down what we know today as Euclid Avenue, then Buffalo Road, through Covered of Night, through Covered Wagon, on their way to freedom downtown, arranging passage by steamship to Canada. It's an incredibly important story. It's the work we've been doing in this quiet time of pandemic to open this house, which will officially, when protocol permits, be open to the public and accessible for the public to engage in the stories of its past, its present, and its future. It's the Cozad-Bates House, and we're proud of it. Another connection that we are striving to make is a connection between community and our safety team. Next week, and this week, actually tomorrow, we will be connecting with community through students and our police officers at the UCPD with our UCPD Pedal with the Police program. And this is the second year, second season, and the second season in COVID and in pandemic that we have put together a program where students learn about bike safety, learn about bike maintenance, and then earn a bike. Thanks to our partners at University Hospitals, they also earn a helmet. And through our board member on this line today, Diana Hildebrand, who's spearheaded the initiatives for safe bike practice and maintenance programs. Each student will receive a bike and a helmet. And what's really going to be fun tomorrow and next week is they'll ride with our officers. We're building bridges in community intentionally being proximate and connecting in a way that communities don't feel that we're in a community of us and them, and this is a we. This is a we growing together. Thank you to the officers who are participating in this, and thank you, Diana, and our team at UCI, who've been leading this initiative. Greg Deegan, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, and Annie Pease and Debbie Berry and Laura Kleiman, who've been helping us put this together with Chief Rapicki, another way to connect. We've been encouraged to connect with our neighbors even more during the pandemic. We've been steadfastly working over Zooms on block clubs, and we finally had a live engagement with a fully vaccinated Judson Manor community in what we called, and I think it was our first vertical block club last week. So that's yours truly engaging live with our members of the Judson community who've been faithfully engaging with us over Zoom over the last year. We're engaging on everything from matters of simply how to get safer ways through the circle for pedestrians, finding easy paths to simply get across the street. It shouldn't be so difficult, but in the confluence of 50,000 workers coming to and from, often at higher speeds than should be, in the midst of a otherwise pedestrian-friendly community, chock full of residents who are simply walking between cultural institutions, education institutions, or healthcare institutions, our commitment is quality of place. And our commitment is to connect with members of our community in things like our vertical block club and our block clubs throughout the circle to make for a safer place, a more vital place, and a more connected place. So pedestrian safety is on our mind. I'll come back to that in a minute, and it should be. It's not been the easiest of experience of pedestrians, especially with the growing pains of new growth. But this is the work of UCI: education, transportation, community development. Well, throughout pandemic, our businesses have been suffering. We've worked very hard to connect our local area restaurants to our constituents with programs like Circle Connects and our food demonstration classes. We did this last summer, fall, and winter. And now we're taking that dine-in experience and taking it on the road and back to a digitally connected audience with Lunch and Learns. So you can pick up your meal find your way to us and have an engaging conversation with our teams about things I've just talked about and everything from our transportation network to other things in our world. And this is a special program through our transportation initiative called Dine and Dash, pun intended. Anyways, join us. Next one coming up, May 18th, public transit and bus network changes. We thank all of our partners around Greater Cleveland who are helping us with program information. I mentioned him already, but connected to us from around the world and through back to Cleveland, Carlos Kalma. If Paul Hogel's on the line, I want to thank you for a great day yesterday and a great day the day before. As we welcomed a gentleman who is Uruguayan born, was trained in Vienna, I'll say it, looks like Franz Wessler most, another conductor in the neighborhood with the same look about him. But we went over to see all of our institutions in the cultural arts scene, or most of them, not all of them, that we could reach by foot yesterday from the Cleveland Institute of Music. Carlos Kalma is a new conductor, chief conductor in residence at the Cleveland Institute of Music. But I bring him up because of the welcoming hospitality of our institutions as he walked through the Cleveland Museum of Art and the Cleveland Orchestra, Case Western Reserve University and Cleveland Botanical Garden, Holden Forest and Garden, and through Wade Oval and past the Natural History Museum and the History Center. He experienced who we are and why we are the best arts district in America. He said right outright, my gosh, everything is so close. Carlos Kalma has been in cities throughout the world, again, from Vienna to Portland, Oregon, where he was last conductor in residence, and Chicago, where for 20 years now, he's conducted the summer music series in Grant Park. He's seen it all, but what he saw here was a welcoming community, a hospitable community of arts and cultural partners, opportunities for collaboration in the future and connections. So I reference him in our connections intent because Carlos Kalma, like Cleveland residents, have experienced themselves when moving here, experienced a welcoming, hospitable place, and the experience of who knew University Circle, all of these offerings within a square mile. Welcome, Carlos. I want to talk for a minute about one of our strategic initiatives that is a part of our strategic plan that this board put together in 2018, and it is about activation. In our mission is the idea of connecting to arts and culture, connecting all peoples, and wanted you to know we are alive and well with our connections. But also in that strategic plan is the idea of activation. Our goal is to create a neighborhood without borders, and that neighborhood without borders, go ahead, is growing block by block, connecting to other neighborhoods. It's part of the connective tissue on some of these vacant lots, as President Barbara Snyder once said, in the connecting corridors. Yes, at 105 Euclid, Chester, MLK, and Stearns, this is a high density corridor, intentionally so. The Artisan, a 23-story building, soon to be on the rise. Groundwork and prep work has already been done at Chester and 105. You will see a whole new corner at Circle Square. Intentionally dense, because land, as Will Rogers said, they're not making any of it anymore. Just take a look. You'll see 3 or 4 new buildings on site. You'll see the tallest building yet to date in University Circle, a building that will look across the street at the next tallest building at One University Circle and maybe have a conversation in the sky. But the idea really here is to connect neighborhoods. University Circle to the Huff neighborhood, to the Cleveland Clinic neighborhood, to the Fairfax neighborhood, as this sits at the intersect of those 4 neighborhoods in Cleveland's proud Greater University Circle at the crossroads of Ward 6 and Ward 9. We thank our partners at Midwest Development who've been putting this together. We thank the Cleveland Public Library. If Director Thomas is on the line, thank you for your tireless work with the library lofts. Moreover, more importantly, the MLK branch library that will be rebuilt on site. We're excited about Circle Square. And again, ground has been broken. You will see it rising in the sky right before your eyes. Smaller projects, but still important. Part of our activation strategy has been to take lifeless lots and put addresses on the street. We're intentional about the idea of foot traffic. It was Jane Jacobs' birthday this last week. And if you're familiar with Jane Jacobs, she always talked about eyes on the street. And if you're not familiar, read the book. The Death and Life of Great American Cities, the first of 8 books that she wrote. But the idea is people. The idea is people on the street, natural human surveillance, more importantly, natural human hospitality, welcoming friends, people on the street, addresses on the street. 2 lots. One at our partners at Woodhill, Lilly and University Circle. We're activating a lot right at the crossroads of Coltman, 123rd Street, and right next to the University Circle Police Department, you will see the new Woodhill development, working with Ray Christosic, our partner at Little Italy Redevelopment Corporation. Change is hard, but we'll see change at Hessler. We'll see change at a lot at Ford and Hessler that needs new neighbors. We're neighbors for more neighbors. We want to see more addresses on the street because we want to see the investments we've made at Uptown, retailers, restaurants, transit, the GCRTA, the City of Cleveland, the CMSD, all benefit from residents. Their income tax, the property tax ultimately that goes back into the schools, and the revenue streams that come back to UCI that help our youth education programs. This is the connection that matters when we take lifeless lots and turn them into vibrant new addresses. Another connecting corridor is East 105th Street. And at the Glenville University Circle intersect, you will see something, and you're already seeing with Glenville Circle North, fabulous unfolding before your eyes. 3 buildings, the Madison, Studio 105, and Glen Village, or Glenville Circle North, all make up Glen Village. It's an exciting time to be a resident in South Glenville, whether a new resident or a long-time resident. It's an exciting time to see our retail frontage take shape. Not with your every how town restaurants, to pick on a few franchises maybe, but with innovative Black-owned business on 105th, intentionally so, as brought forth by the City of Cleveland, the Mayor's Transformation Initiative. You can read the retailers and restaurateurs who are here. Again, intentionally minority-owned businesses in Cleveland and Glenville Circle North, because there's been such loss, and we are starting to see all kinds of new investment in the South Glenville corridor. As the mayor said to me as we walked down the street on 105th one day at the groundbreaking, pointing to University Circle, he said, it will, and I'm paraphrasing now, catalyze this. And that's Frank Jackson saying that of the 105th Street corridor. We're proud to be a partner to our friends at Famicos and to our friends that have helped build out the Glen Village. Again, activation of spaces that were left at one point for abandoned. It's exciting. Go check out the new restaurants and retailers there. And speaking of, we're proud to say University Circle Inc., even through pandemic, is fully leased through all of our commercial spaces. People ask you about what the future of cities look like. I say, look no further than a place like University Circle, where there's a vibrancy because of healthcare workers who are here, because of students who have returned to live learning environments. Our restaurants are full, and our restaurants actually are now fully tenanted. Our commercial spaces are fully tenanted. What's exciting in this city of diversity and in this neighborhood of global diversity is that all of these restaurants you see before you are from persons either from another part of the world or minority-owned business here in University Circle. Situ's, a Lebanese immigrant. Chopsticks, Chinese immigrant. Capo's Steak, a Black-owned business. And Plum Market, excited that a team came together and found a solution for what became momentarily a dormant grocery store space. And now Plum Market, through the work of Case Western Reserve, is a fabulous new grocery option, a dine-in option. Check it out. But it's connecting through activation of spaces, even through the most challenging of times. This place has a future. This place most definitely has a future as this global village right in front of us in University Circle. Service. I've talked about connection. I've talked about activation. When we activate, we need to serve. Our University Circle Police Department is just 2 years younger than University Circle. It's been with us 62 years. University Circle Inc., I should say. It's been with us 62 years. in the circle, proudly serving. I want to thank our officers for never looking back in pandemic, most challenging of times. You continue to serve, whether it's meals to those shut in Abington apartments, elderly and high rise, disconnected through pandemic, or working with management team on making sure that residents had voter education kits, that they knew where to vote, when to turn in their census forms, and as the chief led a meal drive. And thank you, UCPD, for working with our community development team on connecting in service. Speaking of service, we would be remiss if one more time at a University Circle Inc. meeting, we didn't thank our frontline workers. Our healthcare heroes have been here through all of these days and continue to be as we still struggle through pandemic. Never look back. We place thank you signs everywhere that we could find a visible sight line for an employee coming to work or leaving a third shift at night after a rugged shift on a floor dealing with somebody potentially dealing with pandemic. Thank you, both to the UCPD and our healthcare heroes at university hospitals, at the Veterans Administration hospitals, the Cleveland Clinic and Metro hospitals, 3 of the 4 of those here in University Circle. We're grateful to you. And this was a partnership with Mount Sinai Foundation to literally place signs, invisible sight lines to workers, nurses, doctors, technicians, frontline staff, and all of our institutions coming to work knowing that people care. Thank you all. On the service front, we've made great strides this year to really promote safe transportation. I don't know if you have observed what I've observed, but people are just driving faster. They're definitely, statistically speaking, driving in a more distracted way with the advent of mobile devices. Sometimes your automobile seems like it's an airline cockpit with all the digital devices and message queues, and it seems to me to be harder than ever. But people are moving fast through our community. And yet we promote a community that should be one great big school zone where we wish traffic was moving at the pace at which someone is moving slowly through a school zone. Not every street qualifies for that kind of speed limit. So we let people know where they are, what the speed is, and to slow down. We initiated Project Yield. It was a campaign to literally slow down and save lives. The initiation of that campaign really started at the crosswalks to let people know that it is a state law to stop at a crosswalk, to let a pedestrian passerby make their way through a street right of way. It's their right of way too. This is a street just off of the street where a gentleman was killed. Just to the right of this picture would have been 105, where Jerry Maddox, a former employee of the Cleveland Institute of Music and University Circle Inc., was killed just walking on a Christmas Eve morning. We launched this campaign both in honor of people like Mr. Maddox and another gentleman killed at 99th and Superior, named Muhammad Ali. He was coming through in the same time space in the dark hours in the winter, and 2 gentlemen, lives taken, simply trying to walk in the neighborhood. So we started this campaign in their honor, and we started it in recognition that the city of Cleveland had an admirable campaign also going on called Vision Zero. Vision Zero is intentionally to zero out pedestrian fatalities in the city of Cleveland. We're happy to report that we achieved that in University Circle for the period that we worked at it from December of 2020 through March of 2021. We zeroed out pedestrian fatalities. As I've mentioned at our executive committee, that is a low bar. That is a low common denominator. That is a measure we should succeed at every single day. Yet tragically, crashes have happened that have killed people, and we will not relent in this campaign. We will stay steadfast, letting people know to slow down. And our work did result in lives saved. And thank you, transportation team, for making that happen. There's a lot more to tell you about our transportation team. We spent all of last year talking about transportation. We'll continue, but I just want to say on this one particular campaign, Project Yield, thank you very much. Speaking of the transportation team, I'm happy to announce one of 2 grants we recently received. This from the Ohio EPA. Look, we are trying to create multiple modes from which people get around in this community. We are cognizant of the fact that students come to this community from all continents of the world, not with an automobile and not with ever an intent to necessarily drive that automobile, but they get around in all different ways, on their feet, first and foremost, on their bikes, on their scooters, on their skateboards, on their one wheels. That's the new world. It's a whole new world. But we've also seen car sharing as a success. We've seen it here in our own lot at University Circle Link with the zip cars. And we've seen that this community is responding to global climate challenges, and more people are driving electric vehicles. And with it, we need to accommodate. And so to team member Annie Pease, Debbie Berry, who put out a grant request through our fund development department to the Ohio EPA for free EV charging stations, we received them. And if you've got an electric car and you need to charge up and you've got a meeting in University Circle or just want to stop in for lunch, stop in at the Ford Road Garage, because in the not too distant future, we will be outfitting the garage with new, free to us EV charging stations. It's exciting. Congratulations. The second grant I wanted to reference, we got word of this week, a National Endowment for the Arts grant for our distance learning program here in University Circle. I'm excited about our program, which is specifically for our seniors and our connections to seniors. It was a part of a larger philanthropic campaign. The National Endowment for the Arts let us know this week that we do good work in our community education department, and that good work is for encouraging lifelong learners, older engaged learners, to continue to connect. So through our Circle Collaborative, the University Circle neighborhood will connect lifelong learners in the neighborhoods of Huff and Larchmere, sites historically disconnected, digitally speaking. We will connect and use those funds to develop learning clusters and artists in residence and discuss everything from theater, dance and writing, along with other creative programs. I'm just glad that Sandy Kreisman works as hard as she does to continue to bring home grants from the most unusual sources. Thank you, Sandy, for bringing in the NEA grant this week. I'm still actually catching up with what you are doing, because you continue to bring home the rain. You make it rain, and thank you, Community Education Department, because our senior learners are a part of our learning cohort. They are very important in our neighborhoods to connect also to the opportunities, especially when seniors may not even, without a pandemic, be able to easily interact physically in our institutions. We bring our learning modules to them. Congratulations. It's nice to announce 2 new grants today. And let's move on. So I do want to say that for all our efforts, the clear and present challenges remain. So many of you board members on the line, actually from public sector partners to nonprofit partners to private sector partners, have really worked with the city and the CMSD on helping bridge the digital divide. I think what we've all learned in this year of reckoning is that we're woefully behind. And it showed when students in family households, through no fault of their own, could not connect because of infrastructure that was inadequate or pricing that was out of line with their ability to connect, or simply follow-up visits from tech providers that you may take for granted in your own home. The digital divide is real. And we learned it when students were asked to learn online with a lot of stumbling last year. So what do? Well, we've worked with those very partners to provide a lot of new connection opportunities in the schools, working like you to get kids Chromebooks, to get kids connected. But what we do in the Circle is also predicated often on live learning. And we did a lot of digital work over the course of the last year. But with summer months and spring months ahead and protocols in place, and having learned a lot more about how to do what we do, we have developed the Your Community program. That's the last program I want to talk about today, and this idea of connect, serve, and engage. The engagement we brought before the Senate Health Committee from the state last week. Our Circle Scholars program was our baseline from which to begin. Circle Scholars started in 2015 when we recognized that we had in neighborhoods nearby too many incidents of crime and too many incidents of crime involving a youth. And with that, we said, what can we do? We knew that we could do more. We could spend more time with kids on those precarious hours outside of school, be it after school, be it on weekends. And so we did. And we worked with our partners in the Circle to connect programming to area nearby schools. And then we used that as a mechanism to say, what if we did more? What if we worked over the weekends and in the summers in camp-like environments? And so we reached out to our neighborhood schools in Huff and Fairfax and Glenville and Buckeye Shaker and St. Clair, and we said, what if? What if we built on the Circle Scholars experience, a Circle Explorers series under the banner Your Community? The idea of Your Community is important because we want this to be known to be a place that is everybody's community. Again, going back to that best arts district in the country, what does it mean for me next door? And we appealed to the state legislature at the Senate Health Committee with $300,000 pending for our programs. We'll see, and we should know in the near weeks how we fared. But in the meantime, we've been developing private philanthropic contributions to our Circle Explorers and Yay Youth Art Saturdays programs, I think, which we have a slide on. So the Circle Explorers Camp is simply this: the continuum of care, enrichment, engagement, and opportunity. And the continuum, after school ends, it keeps going. June 7th through July 16th, where kids from regional suburban school districts, parents are making choices about summer camps now that there's protocol in place to safely engage. We decided to do that too, but to assist with families who maybe didn't have the economic opportunity to pay for a summer camp. So what if we appealed to you? And what if we appealed to local area foundation funders into the state of Ohio to do so? We've been able to make it such that we can provide free summer camp opportunities for neighborhood middle school students, focusing on our 7th and 8th graders, focusing, as you see, on personal, career, and community awareness opportunities. The modules, again, reflect very much who we are. The idea of health and wellness, culture and innovation, sustainability and stewardship. If you missed the beginning or you didn't see the first slide, we talk about reveal opportunities, which our guest Ron Ferguson is going to take on in a minute. The idea of revealing opportunities and presenting just everyday enriching experiences, whether it becomes a career or not. A student immersed in an environment like the Circle on health and wellness, culture and innovation, sustainability and stewardship under the banner of Your Community, their community, this community, and learning more about opportunities herein. That's the Circle Explorers Camp. I want to thank those of you on the line who've already helped with your treasure with this program that is going to provide a timeless experience for a student that could change a life when their eyes light up to some opportunity that they see out there. We're going to start with at least 66 students in this summer program and hoping to grow to over 120 students in year 2. And lastly, Yay Saturdays. Yes, we will miss Parade the Circle and Circle Village that goes along with it. When you see students, families ambling through all the cultural offerings, through all of the Wade Oval tents that we put out during Wade Oval Wednesdays, or in partnership with the Cleveland Museum of Art at Parade the Circle. While those 2 events are still on hold as the city works through live engagement protocol, we will be having our summer camp and we will be having Yay Saturdays. Free morning events on Saturday mornings for youth and family. You'll see, I think already all over town in news and digital feeds and on billboards, our Yay Saturday ads. It's like a Wade Oval Wednesday for kids, parents, and caregivers. And thanks to our community partners like you, and we hope the state of Ohio and many of our community foundations, we're going to make a go of every Saturday from June 12th to July 17th of creating enriching, engaging opportunities for our youth, particularly those nearest by. This is why I thank our staff. Their jobs are not a 5-day-a-week job. None of ours are. This is why I thank our board for helping us put together the funds to make this happen. And this is why I think the best days in University Circle are still ahead. And we've proven if we can thrive even in pandemic, we can thrive anytime, and we will. That's our pledge to you, to connect, to serve, to activate, and to engage. And for that portion of this presentation, that is our report for the last 6 months since we last convened as a board in our twice-year annual meetings. And I thank you for your support and partnership. It's now my honor, if our honoree, the winner of the Stephanie Tubbs Jones Neighborhood Leadership Award, is on the line, and I'm guessing she is, or Svengali behind the screen wouldn't have put this slide up. But it is my honor to say, in that same vein of engage, activate, serve, connect, we give an annual award in the memory of Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who my colleague Debbie Berry is going to present what that award is all about, and my colleague Laura Kleinman is going to present that award to our very worthy honoree. I want to say in jest in advance, because Stephanie would love this, the awardee was so busy today, she told us she couldn't quite get on the line at 3 to receive the award. She didn't know, she thought she was being honored because she's retiring this year. I had to call her just 5 minutes before 3 and say, I hope you can come on the line because you're actually winning an award. And she's so faithful to the work she does and the constituents she serves. She said, wait a minute, I've still got a call with a local foundation at 3 o'clock. Do you mind if I join a little late? I love that, because that's the essence of neighborhood leadership, where you put your constituents, the people you serve, first before yourself. And everyone who's a leader out here knows it's not about them, it's about the constituents they serve. And Stephanie Tubbs Jones knew that well, as does our awardee and our honoree. So I'm going to give it over to Debbie Berry to announce what this award is about, and then Laura Kleinman to announce our awardee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really excited to be able to give you all a little bit of background about the Stephanie Tubbs Jones Neighborhood Leadership Award, and happy to announce as well that her son Mervyn Jones is joining us on the call today. So thanks for being here today, Mervyn. Stephanie Tubbs Jones was a judge, a prosecutor, a legislator, and the first African-American congresswoman from the state of Ohio. She was a national trailblazer who we all had the good fortune of knowing locally simply as Stephanie. She lived on Wade Park Avenue in Greater University Circle before anyone ever called it that. Stephanie used to say, I live at the intersection of two great neighborhoods. I live in Glenville, and I look at my alma mater, Case Western Reserve University, right across the street in University Circle. When she died an untimely death in 2008, national dignitaries from Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama took time out of their campaign trail to come to Cleveland's public auditorium to pay their respects. She was truly beloved. UCI also wanted to pay our respects to our trailblazing resident. So we commissioned a statue designed by local artist and former director of the Cleveland Institute of Art, David Deming, to sit in a park on East Boulevard and Wade Oval Drive where people could simply sit with Stephanie. And people do sit with Stephanie year round. In fact, one woman even began a tradition of placing a scarf on Stephanie to make sure she kept warm in the winter months. After the Stephanie Tubbs Jones statue at PNC Community Plaza was dedicated, we knew we needed her legacy to continue to live on. So we also dedicated this award in her honor. The Stephanie Tubbs Jones Neighborhood Leadership Award honors persons who make significant contributions to the University Circle and Greater University Circle neighborhoods by bringing people together to help create a better place. You see here a list of our past award winners, so I will not go through that entire list for you. But again, honored to have Mervyn Jones, Stephanie's son, joining us on the call today. And I will now turn it over to Laura Kleinman, UCI's Vice President of Services, to announce this year's winner. Laura, thank you.
And thank you, Debbie, as I just adjust a few things here. Oh, let's see. So sorry about the delay. I'm so honored to be able to present the 2021 Stephanie Tubbs Jones Award to Marsha Dobrzynski, the president and CEO of the Center for Arts Inspired Learning. And I don't know if Marsha knows, but today we are joined by many of her CAL staff and board, including Jeannie Shatton, Justin Dow, Paul Cox, Christine Snyder, Carrie Roscoe, and Christopher House. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody, but we're really glad that you could join us today and be able to help congratulate Marsha with this really deserving award. So for those of you who don't know, the Center for Arts Inspired Learning unites art and education to change lives. They're professional teaching artists, use the arts to teach problem solving and critical thinking skills, which builds on curricular needs to engage and inspire students and really motivate students to succeed. Cal programs are available for pre-K through 12 grade students. They're aligned with the core curriculum and they can be customized for curricular needs. Programs are available during school, after school, and even out of school time. And Marsha has been with Cal since 1994. During her tenure, she has made significant strides in the community when it comes to connecting and engaging our neighborhood kids to the arts. For example, Cal has teamed up with Councilman Kevin Conwell to offer the Play It Forward program, a collaboration with the City of Cleveland, Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Cal, Severance Hall, and the Cleveland Orchestra. Play It Forward Cleveland is a free music program that gives inner city youth the opportunity to receive beginner to intermediate instrument instruction. And it's open to City of Cleveland students in grades 6 through 12. Additional programs, which we can't get into now, would include Artworks, the Cal Academic Learning Pod, and the UC3 initiative. Now, under Marsha's leadership, this past summer, UCI teamed up with Cal to work with neighbors and professional artists to create beautiful large-scale art installations on Wade Oval. These installations, if you happen to catch them, formed an exhibit called Voices on View. The art addressed timely themes such as immigration, racial injustice, education, and voting. During the 2018-2019 school year alone, the Center for Arts Inspired Learning's extensive arts programming resonated across Northeast Ohio as it offered, 6,759 total programs, which affected nearly 120,000 students and employed 73 local artists. So please, please help me in thanking and congratulating Marsha for her vision, commitment, and service to our community and the arts. And we wish her well because, as Chris indicated, she will be retiring in June after 27 years with Cal.
Well, I don't know what to say. I was a little overwhelmed when Chris called me before. I thought, oh God, what did I do? And that because I was going to be on the call. And Sherry, I will never forgive you for because I asked you if there was anything. But anyhow, I want to thank you very much for this award. I am truly, truly honored. It has not been work for me the past 27 years at Cal. It has really been a privilege for me to do what I believe is so vitally important for all of us, and that is to have a connection to the art in our everyday lives for young people and old people alike. So I'm a little speechless. I'm going to tear up because it's getting to the end of my time at the organization, but thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. I don't know what else to say.
Well said, Marsha. Thank you, neighbor, friend, inspiring leader. I will tell you, I was at a ribbon cutting and our chair was there as well today on a wholly different matter down at the Red Line Greenway. And you were referenced. You're everywhere for the mural, that's right. And yes, the work you do, you pop up everywhere like flowers throughout Cleveland. I really mean that. We see you at schools, we see you on 105th, we see you in the studio. The voices of your students right outside our door here make for such a great sound because it's all what we're about and what we're talking about today, engaged learning, and you inspire it. So just wanted to say how unanimous this was and how worthy you are, and we're gonna miss you in your retirement, but you go out on such a high note with such a foundation that you've left for the future of your organization.
Thank you so much. And I just want to, speaking of murals, let everybody know that we will be brightening Glenville starting this summer with a mural on East 105th and many more to come into the future. So
Doing it with, and the students are the lead in that. So thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank you,
Marsha.
thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank
All
you.
right, and to the board members from Marsha's organization and staff members who are out there, thank you all for being here today too. And I want to thank Mervyn Jones again, who is actually got a foot back in Cleveland. So Mervyn, we made sure to put your smiling face up there. Mervyn grew up here, obviously, mom being Stephanie, and got a foot back on Wade Park Avenue, so right in our neighborhood. It's great to have you back in Cleveland. He does consulting work in the nation's capital, and he's got a foot in Cleveland and a foot in DC. Sounds like your 2 feet are exactly where mom's were too. Mervyn and I have reflected often on the wonderful 108th Street Stephanie Tubbs Jones Plaza with a statue of Stephanie seated as she would like it with people. So go up and say hello to Stephanie and think about her leadership and think about how often we miss the kind of leadership that Stephanie brought to the equation here in Cleveland and throughout Ohio and in the nation. We miss the convener leader who started, I think, with kind of an altruistic view of things and an appreciative view of how she did her work, working with partners. We need that kind of partnership more and more. And that's why Marsha got this award today. She's truly a listener, convener, leader, and leads by the examples that she sets forth with her kids. So congratulations, Marsha. Thank you, Mervyn, for being with us today. And always in the name of Stephanie, keep on leading, everybody. So it's my pleasure now to bring an outside perspective who's not too far outside of Cleveland because was brought up in Cleveland and with connections all over the place in University Circle. I'm going to let Greg Deegan introduce Dr. Ron Ferguson to talk about his work in this field over his entire career. But I did want to say to Greg Deegan, who's the person behind so many of the programs I referenced working with the staff and the community education team, if it's not obvious, education is our focus on today's work. It should always be our focus. And Greg Deegan is our leader of community education for UCI, as director of UCI community education. He's got 21 years behind him as a Beechwood High School civics teacher, Fulbright scholar, started teaching Cleveland, which helps teach other nonprofits and teachers about the cities from which we all come here, Cleveland. And Greg, you just keep on giving. Thank you. You've taken Circle Scholars to a whole new level with the York community programs that I just mentioned. It's all about active, engaged, live learning that you're doing with students from neighborhood schools. And you said from the beginning, I want to dive deeper into the schools around us, pursuant to our plans. That's exactly what you've done. Thank you, Greg. I'm going to leave that introduction at that. Say you've been a tireless leader here in community ed, and I'm going to let you introduce our speaker, Ron Ferguson. Greg.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everybody. It really is an honor to have Dr. Ron Ferguson with us today as part of the conversation. I'll give a little bio and Ron will share some ideas, and we'll have a conversation. But Ron Ferguson is an MIT-trained economist who's teaching research and social entrepreneurship across almost 4 decades at Harvard Kennedy School, have covered topics ranging from state and local economic development to school reform to early childhood parenting. In 2014, he co-founded Tripod Education Partners and shifted from full-time into an adjunct role at the Kennedy School, where he remains a faculty associate at the Malcolm Weiner Center for Social Policy. Ron's current priority is an initiative that he launched as faculty director for the Achievement Gap Initiative at Harvard, which mobilizes communities for infant and toddler learning and brain development. His most recent book, co-authored with Tatsha Robertson and published in 2019, is The Formula: Unlocking the Secrets to Raising Highly Successful Children. So Ron grew up in Cleveland, attended JFK High School, holds an undergraduate degree from Cornell and a PhD from MIT, both in economics. So we're really happy to have Ron here. And Ron, welcome. We're so glad to have you and to reconnect, as I met Ron some time ago. I just wonder if, given your research, you might share some of your ideas about the needs of early learners and in their educational journeys.
Sure. I just want to start by thanking you for inviting me. As Chris was talking, I was thinking of even more connections to the University Circle area. As we've talked about, I grew up in Cleveland in the Kinsman area, then Lee Harvard, and took art lessons at the art museum. I took music lessons at the Music Settlement. I was in Cleveland All City Band, where we had our annual conference at Severance Hall. I I learned recently that my father's father is actually buried in a small cemetery that's somewhere around 118th and Euclid. And so even that piece is there. Harrison Dillard was my uncle's college roommate. My uncle was Bill Shaver. Some of you may recall in the 1960s and 70s that the basketball coach at each Tech was Bill Shavers. That was my uncle. And Ken Ferguson and Lee Harvard was my brother. He actually passed recently last year. He's well known around Cleveland for karate. But and Chris did not mention, when he ran through the list of neighborhoods, he did not mention Lee Harvard. So you got to get the Lee Harvard kids over there too. So
Absolutely.
anyway, as Chris said, as you heard, I'm an economist by training. And we lived on 118th and Imperial when I was about 8 years old. And I remember asking somebody, what do you do as a grown-up for a job to help make things better for people? And I think I was thinking about economic kinds of conditions. And somebody said city planning. So I grew up planning to be a city planner, found my way into economics, but then discovered around 30 years ago now that standardized reading and math skills and the kinds of skills that kids get in school are really strong predictors of some of the inequities that I became an economist in order to address. And so for the last 25 years or so, most of my work has been on education. And now a lot of my focus, not all of it, is on early childhood, because a lot of the gaps that bother us are very much in evidence by the time children are 2 years old. And so we're trying to get to whole communities, whole cities, with what parents need to know in order that their children don't fall behind by the time that they're 2 years old. So parents need information, they need social reinforcement, and they need reminders. And so we have a whole program that I hope can get into Cleveland. We're in a bunch of other cities sometime soon. But I don't know, Greg, where do you want me to start with other stuff?
Well, that's great. By the way, we'd love to have your program in Cleveland. And I appreciate when Ron and I got to know one another, he was doing work on the achievement gap, and his work, as he stated, has naturally moved into early childhood. But, Ron, if you wanted to share some of, the needs of children along the continuum of their educational journeys, that would be great.
Why don't I do two kinds of things? Let me start with, we put out a book 2 years ago called The Formula: Unlocking the Secrets to Raising Highly Successful Children. We interviewed about 200 people, often their families. These are about half of them were about Harvard graduates. Other people were just fascinating people we ran into out in the world and wanted to know, how'd you get to be that way? And we found a pattern. There were 8 things that came up in almost every story that these parents had done. The first one we call the early learning partner. These were parents who spent a lot of time playing with their kids, interacting in ways that got the kids almost addicted to learning. So when they showed up in kindergarten, they were just used to learning with a grown-up that's just one more adult, and you learn. The second was the flight engineer, the parent who monitors what goes on outside the home, particularly at school. And so if a teacher disrespects a child or is not doing a good job, or if the school needs some help, the parent becomes involved to make sure the child stays on a high developmental trajectory. The third is the fixer, who knows their child well enough to know their interests, their skills, their proclivities, and make sure that the doors to opportunity stay open. I mean, one thing that's so important and fascinating about the work we're talking about here today is how many different opportunities are being cultivated in and around University Circle. And so a parent who's a fixer will know about those opportunities. And even if there's an admissions fee, they will say, no, one way or another, my child's got to be at the door. It's got to get that opportunity. So that's the fixer. The revealer is the parent who helps, who basically we say shows children life's menu. Here are all the different things you could get interested in, the passion projects you might pursue, the types of careers you might grow up to inhabit. And that revealer talks to the child, but also finds people who are actually in those careers to talk to the child, gets them into extracurricular activities that helps them to deepen their understanding of those things. And so we say that the revealer is helping to cultivate the child's sense of possible selves. And it's not just their future possible selves, it's even who you are now. I was thinking that my experience in and around University Circle growing up affected my sense of who I was. You know, when you're seeing some of that stuff, you feel kind of important. You know, people are taking their time to teach you art and to teach you music and to expose you to these things. And I remember even just, I don't know, the blossoms around the pond there, or the lagoon, or whatever you call it.
Every
It
spring.
was so, I used to look forward to going to see the blossoms in University Circle every year. And there's just certain a sense, an ambiance that you develop exposed to all that stuff there that also is part of what the revealer would show their child, right? The model is a parent who carries himself in a way that the child wants to emulate. I want to be like my dad. I want to be like my mom. The negotiator teaches the child how to self-advocate, how to speak truth to power respectfully, how to behave in ways that powerful people want to support them. And then the GPS navigational voice is different because it's a parent in the kid's head. It's the memory of all those lessons that the parent delivered. I remember one of our people, they said, my mom used to always say, feel the fear and do it anyway. And there's actually a book by that title that the grandmother got that phrase from. We interviewed the granddaughter, and she said, my mom always says, feel the fear and do it anyway. I said, do you know where your mom got that from? She got that from her mother, and her mother got it from a book, right? And so what I just listed were what we found out that these master parents do, but it turns out that the community can do that too. You can do all those things through the programming. You can help educators in your schools know that they can do those things through the schools. And the other little framework really quickly, so that's the formula, it's cradle to career. The basics are the ideas that our campaign is written around. We talk about the basics campaign. And there are 5 principles that an expert advisory committee helped me distill from the literature. And now we have an organization and an approach. You can go to thebasics.org to see more about it. But first principle is maximize love, manage stress. Infants and toddlers who are in stressful environments don't develop strong self-control skills, self-management skills, self-regulation skills, the ability to change your focus from one thing to another, to make a plan and follow through with it, to resist temptation. So we need to help parents learn to manage their own stress and to shield their babies from stress. The second one is talk, sing, and point. Kids can hear 3 months before they're born. They come out of the womb already having started to encode language. So we need to tell parents, talk real talk. Even you talk in that high sing-songy voice we call parentese, talk real talk to your infants and toddlers, point at what you're talking about so they can associate words with objects, and singing helps them also tune in. Count, group, and compare is about the foundation for numeracy. Grouping games help toddlers figure out, hey, numbers correspond to groups of things. They aren't really just words you say one after the other. The comparisons call their attention to magnitudes and starts to get them doing mathematical thinking. Explore through movement and play. Playtime is discovery time. And then finally, read and discuss stories. It's about the discussion, not just the reading. And so we have videos and text and twice weekly text messages and tip sheets and activity guides for frontline service providers and a network that meets once a month and all those kinds of things. It would be great to have Cleveland connected into that. But bottom line, school is really important, but so is what happens outside of school. And so everything I just talked about for that last 5 minutes was about what happens with parents at home and out in the community.
I appreciate that, Ron. You know, one of the points you make in your book is that the book doesn't feature any superhumans.
Yes.
This is, you know, and to me, that is such an important point.
Yes. Yes. And it doesn't require a whole lot of time. We talk about strategic time. Knowing your children well enough so you recognize those moments when they really need you. They really need a conversation right now. Actually, I skipped over the philosopher in those roles. The philosopher takes a child seriously as a thinker from the first time the child can express the thought and gives thoughtful answers and helps the child find a sense of purpose, a sense of ethics, and just ponder life's big questions. And so it's really about being thoughtful. Actually, one of our star characters in the book, because we weave in and out of the life stories of folks, is Jarrell Lee, who grew up near Harvard and Union in Cleveland and went to Cleveland Public Schools and then went to, I guess it's their university prep school out.
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
University school. Yep.
Right. So they were homeless for 3 years. From the time he was 3 to 6, they were homeless in the Kinsman and Lower Shaker Heights area. His mother would choose which homeless shelter to go to next, depending upon the quality of the school that it was near. She would go, she said every parade, she took him there. They would, they used the museums. They would sit on the bed in the homeless shelter and read library books. they would ride the buses through the city and point things out and say, if you work really hard and do well, you won't have to see that when you grow up in some of the more depressed neighborhoods. And so he's a school principal now at the age of 30 in Chicago. And his life mission is to make space in the world for little boys like he used to be, because he always felt he was less than until he got to the University Circle school and found that he was just as smart as they were, but he never had the same opportunities they did. So he's a Harvard graduate now. He's, a star.
That's amazing.
Right.
That, and the fact that you and Jarrell have these personal stories of enrichment to me, and the idea that what was implanted was this idea of a future self, the possibility of a future self, which I think is amazing. You spoke a little bit about this revealer, and UCI's community education department really prides itself on supporting schools to be able to get kids to find the wonderment in the world and to think about the possibilities of them in the world. So I'm wondering if you could go a little bit deeper into some aspects of the revealer.
Yeah, part of it is about the people who interact with the child, getting to know that child so that you can prioritize certain kinds of experiences and opportunities that you provide the child. Part of it is about the variety of exposures that you give to the child, and just being aware that this child is on a developmental trajectory. We usually interact with one another on a day-to-day basis as if today is the only day there ever will be. And so you're not really thinking about how what you say and do today is going to have ripple effects going forward into the future. I mean, adults interacting with children, just being aware of that, can talk more about what's going to happen in the future, and how what you're doing today will help to prepare you for particular futures. But the other piece of it is we think of possible future selves, and we always think about career. Most of us think of ourselves, we're way more than our careers. Okay, life is about way more than a career. So future self has to do with the types of arts that you enjoy as a consumer, the types of things that you might want to do as a hobby that might be involved with the arts, the kinds of other people you want to have in your friendship circles and stay engaged with, the places in the world you might want to visit someday, the kind of family that you might want to have future. Often one effective way to talk to engage with a 13-year-old or 14-year-old is ask them, what would your own 13 or 14-year-old child want you to do today?
That's great.
What would make your own future children proud of you, right?
Love that.
And just or tell them, don't accept my advice. Talk to your own future self. Imagine a 35-year-old you. What would they tell you to do today? Take your own advice. And so all those things have to do with possible future selves, and that rich sort of menu of dimensions of future self we can have in mind as we counsel young people and interact with them.
I love that. You have a quote in the book that some of the most formative experiences were in community centers, churches, institutions, conservatories. And, you're living proof of that, right? And
I sure am. I mean, I can remember, I know this comes to mind, when I was in 7th grade, I entered the Cleveland music contest. They could have the contest where everybody goes, you get ratings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we had really rehearsed this piece with my music teacher at the conservatory. And it was a difficult piece by Mozart. I did it well, and they gave me a 2. This was like 1962. They didn't give me a 1, a score. And I felt kind of hurt. I felt a little less than because I didn't get a 1. And I remember going back over and telling him that, and he let me know that the problem was with them and not me. A little black boy wasn't supposed to be able to play that well. And they didn't feel comfortable giving me a 1. But it was not, and that moment was an important moment that I remember now, 60 years later.
So powerful in terms of those experiences, and for what UCI's community education department tries to do is to connect multiple institutions and multiple experiences really across the circle. Yeah. But so I wonder for you know that University Circle is home to an incredible array of collections, performers, experiences, experts. in what ways do you think the circle and its institutions can be the most effective as revealers to especially our neighborhood students?
Maybe having a system where you digitally keep track of individual kids, where you can know cumulatively what their experience has been in circle-related programs, and you can connect forward. And people who are serving a kid this year could look up to see, well, what programs did they participate in last year? Or maybe you've got a record of what their interests might be, so you can know what to refer them to for next year. And so there's a continuity. They're a member of something, right? So kid thinks, I didn't just come to a program here. I'm a university circle. The scholar may be too narrow a word. So it's not just a scholar. You're a university you're a member of the University Circle family, right?
Yeah, that's
you're a University Circle family member.
A great point. We have pre-K programs, we have K-8 programs, we go deep in middle school and want to connect all those programs across the way. But to your point, we're talking about even just having sort of someday junior ambassadors who welcome families to the Wade Oval Wednesdays, our concert series, right? Where it is a communal experience. And it's also encouraging a love of place and seeing themselves as members of their community that are important to the community.
But one other thing, though, is that there's a danger of ending up with a small cluster of really favored kids, and where the vast majority of kids in the east side of Cleveland or Cleveland overall don't benefit. And so the question is how you can use technology, digital technology, to spread out and share some of those ideas. So even if every kid doesn't get to visit very often, there are events in their schools that show videos that are taken of various events there, and where the connotation is this is your community that we're showing you a piece of here. And so I think to make it a really citywide resource, and even give kids hints about how this is supposed to make you feel about yourself. We wouldn't show this to you if you weren't important, if we didn't think that this had some way to contribute to your life. And we're trying to help you become a fully realized human being. We have an equation in our book that says smarts plus purpose plus agency leads to fully realized human beings. So smarts is just learning what you can in school, and some people have some different kinds of smarts. But purpose is, what do you want to accomplish? It might be for your family, so you don't limit the kind of purposes. And then whatever it is you want to accomplish, you need to get up and go to actually follow through and take the initiative to do it, not just dream about it, right? And so we have people who have some smarts, who have some things they want to accomplish, and who have the get up and go, the initiative to do it. Then you're living life fully. You're a fully realized human being. And so, I mean, your work could help to spread even that concept of becoming a fully realized human being. Fully realized human beings got great relationships. They are plugged into the arts. They have an idea of what they want to accomplish in the world. All these kinds of things. You can even imagine middle school kids writing essays on what is a fully realized human being and how can I be one.
I love it. It's like Sir Ken Robinson said famously about being fully alive and being fully present in a moment and understanding one's place in there. And to me, that resonates. The idea of social emotional learning, getting kids to understand how much they matter, and getting them to think of themselves as citizens of the circle, as having a love of place, and seeing themselves as stewards of their community.
And having them understand the arc of life. And I have a poem that's targeted it's from the perspective of a parent of a newborn. And one of the lines, it ends by saying, and let me see, you will learn that your life is an artwork and that you are the artist in charge. But before you decide what to do with your life, listen now to the beat of my heart, right? Is the way it starts, because it's to an infant. But if life is an artwork, it has an arc. I mean, I've got a 5-month-old granddaughter. I've got a 91-year-old mother. I've had 2 brothers die within the last 15 months. Okay, life is a visit. This is not a permanent status. And so what are you going to do during that visit? What are you going to see? What are you going to accomplish during that trip? And I mean, the kids, being realistic, they know they've had family members who have passed. They know we're not here forever. And so if you're going to make it like an artwork, like a vacation that you really want to fully experience, how do you put that together? And art is another device to help communicate some of those bigger philosophical ideas, like the ones we're talking about here.
I appreciate that. You've done so much work, turning a little bit to challenges, right? You've done so much work on the achievement gaps and where they're represented. And our mission at UCI is to create a neighborhood without borders. Can you speak to ways that as an organization, both UCI and as a neighborhood, we can do that more effectively?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's sort of obvious stuff that you'll already think of. Make sure that when people come into the University Circle area, they see things that look like themselves. They just, it's not unusual to have folks of color say, "Oh, that's just for white people," And so you want to have things that look like themselves, and also welcoming different personal styles. I mean, you have dialects of people from different countries. You have dialects from people who grew up here from different neighborhoods. Ways to honor the differences, right? Things that, I mean, for a while, it's not that much anymore, but there was a while when kids were sagging their pants a lot, for example. And I was among the adults that just said, you look like a fool, pull your pants up. And so, but you can imagine something that's even honoring sagging your pants for a while, that interviews kids about why they sag their pants and what the signal is they're trying to receive. I'm trying to send, because it's all about signaling, right? And another thing, a nuanced thing could be really interesting is that a lot of the things that we see in youth peer culture are things that kids don't even want to do. They're just trying to fit in. A lot of the trouble kids get into in school is for doing things they didn't want to do, but it's better to be punished by the adults than by your peers. So if you violate a peer norm, then you get punished even more harshly by your friends than you'll get punished by the adults for violating, things that the rules the adults want you to follow. But the fact is, the majority of kids already have the right values. They just don't have the right opportunities to live out those values. So sometimes I talk about a conspiracy to succeed, where you help the kids organize a conspiracy against their own youth culture, because the youth culture is like an oppressor that's got them all trapped, and individually they can't fight it, because if individually they violate what the oppressor wants them to do, everybody gangs up and punishes them for that. But I did a survey, one of the many surveys we did. I asked kids, please write down the things that students at your school do so that other people will like them. The things other kids do so that other people will like them. Most of the things on that list were mischievous, were things that they shouldn't be doing. Then the second question was, if you were in charge and you could set the rules for what's cool, what would you have be cool? It was the same list their parents and teachers would have written. And then the third question was, what would you have be not cool? It was all the stuff on the first list, right? And I've met with middle school and high school kids and repeated this exercise, and we get the same results pretty much every time. And I ask them, well, why are these two lists so different, the first one and the second one? And I remember one girl in a New York high school, she says, I just don't want nobody judging me. I just don't want nobody judging me. So I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to not have my friends commenting critically on it, right? And usually if you talk to a bunch of kids about this, about 15, 20 minutes in, they're all agreeing, we shouldn't be doing it this way. I mean, we all want it the other way, so why don't we just change? And if you get really good educators or really good group leaders with kids, you can cut through that really quickly. And so the teachers who are best at classroom management, they don't have these issues. But the teachers who struggle more with classroom management, then the peer culture takes over. And neither the teachers nor the kids like it. So there's work, to do there.
Yeah, for sure. We have a group called the Circle Partners Educators Collaborative. And so it is more than 20 organizations, the education teams, who really do talk about ways to make sure that we are engaging in best practices. I loved your comment about just inclusion and how important inclusion is for various approaches to learning and discovering, and how key that is for making such a welcoming place,
Right.
A neighborhood without borders.
Yeah, Cleveland was actually one of the sites of a study of a youth build program that we did about between 25 and 30 years ago. And I remember, I think it was in Cleveland, where one of the kids said, Well, if there's a program in the community, you can go up and just open the door and look in and see who it's for.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And you just look in and see who's in the room. You say, oh, that's not for me. And you leave.
Interesting. It is amazing, by the way, all of so many of your anecdotes have these incredible insights by kids, which also, by the way, is a key piece, right? Is allowing kids to have these insights and to show that they matter. Those opinions actually have quite a bit of depth beneath them in their experiences.
Almost no matter who you're working with, you're trying to shape an experience for a certain group of people. That group of people is the one that has the best insights for what that experience should be.
Well, Ron, I so appreciate it. And just to put it in context, when I was doing some work with the Achievement Gap, it turned out that I reached out to Ron because I'd read some articles, and he reached back out to me. You're incredibly generous with your time and your insights, and we so appreciate your time today, your insights, and we also really appreciate your experiences and your very deeply personal connections to the circle. So just thank you so much for your time.
Well, I appreciate the work you're doing. I congratulate you on all the great work that Chris described in the first part of the movement meeting. I mean, this work happens because people like you step up and do it. It did not happen by accident, but a lot can be achieved when folks like Chris and everybody in your organization steps up to make it happen. So again, I congratulate you, and I'm honored to have been invited to participate today.
Thank you, Ron. Turn it back over to Chris, our fearless leader.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Ron. We're grateful. I think we need to stay connected with you. Bring you back to your hometown, Cleveland, as often as we can get you digitally or otherwise. But thank you, and you gave us some great insights on this idea of connecting programs forward, this idea of revealing, which I think our institutions on the line know that they are significant partners in the reveal. But this idea of future self, you know, we all have a future self, but being as supportive in a young learner's life about their future self, and they doing it on their terms and telling us more about how they want to do it. We are grateful for those insights. I was thinking, on top of all of his other work, Ron's a poet. I learned that the other night, and I appreciated your poetry, Ron. I also wanted to say to Greg, our student poetry through our youth education programs that you and the team run here at UCI Community Ed really reveal a lot. And to the extent students are willing to share, I think in the future, getting some of that poetry out to these our adults on the line here to kind of get insights on what students are thinking. It's really revealing both ways. Reveal works both ways, right? Yeah,
I got one queued up here. If you, the one we talked about, all I said was graduate.
Let's end this portion on that, and then I've got one video for our audience on what UCI Community Ed does. But let's do it, Ron.
Okay.
Impromptu here.
Right. This is a high school graduate. Vacant jobs, the big sign says, but nowhere do I see a way to get myself prepared so they can hire me. They told me if I did the work to graduate high school, I'd be prepared to have success and life would be real cool. Wonder why they lied to me. Wasn't really fair. Now here I am alone and broke and no one seems to care. All they said was graduate. That's just what I did. I did enough to pass each class. I was a real good kid. No one ever told me that I needed to get skills, that what I learned in school could someday help me pay my bills. All they said was graduate. I thought that was enough. So now I sit here clueless, worried about all kinds of stuff. If only they had told me that high school was preparation, a place to get the skills I'd need to find a good vocation. If only they had told me that I actually need to learn. The mastery, not just passing, should have been my main concern. Maybe if some classes were more closely linked to working, I'd have spent more time on task and less time goofing off or shirking. And I know that lots of teachers said that I should go to college, but they never made it clear that to do that, I needed knowledge. As kids, we count on grown-ups to help us find our way. When they fall down on that job, we sometimes tend to go astray. At this point in my life, I look for hope, reject despair. But it would help me quite a bit if I could know you really care.
Ron, thank you very much for that inspiration. Obviously, your poetry, the substance within. We did recently bring forth a mastery school here in the circle, and people are still trying to understand exactly what that is. But I'm saying that because I think they're ahead of the game in education, that this is not about the pace at which you learn, the grade at which you receive. It's about subjects that inspire and the mastery thereof. And I love that we're moving in that direction, that we are learning through kids' lens about what inspires. And that was our awardee on the line. That's the way she's conducted all of her work at Center for Arts Inspired Learning. We've got a lot to learn as institutions, as Circle partners. We've got a lot of content to share. And I think, again, if we're thinking of this as a dialogue between our students and adults, it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, and we will connect. Ron, you inspired us today. Thank you for your words of wisdom, for all your work, and for your advocacy for Cleveland outside of Cleveland. We appreciate your stories you shared. I am going to end on a video about the work we do at community education, but before doing that, and thanks again, Ron, I want to say that we all know this has been an extraordinary year for students, a year like no other in terms of what's been put upon them in terms of expectation in this pandemic. But we should stop more often and simply celebrate our students, simply celebrate who they are, the ways in which they look at the world, the insights that they offer if we stop and listen. In the end, in this year, we look at, we're not through pandemic, but as we look at what we've been through as a society, we spend a lot of time about what didn't happen or what should have happened or how we didn't do this, but we forget sometimes to celebrate what they did do. And I think our goal is, just as was said by Ron and Greg, is to reveal more opportunity, to connect deeper, and to work with our students on their shared success, utilizing great arts districts like University Circle and great healthcare districts and great culture and all of this offered here as a springboard to a vibrant future for our students, looking at it through their lens. So thank you again, Ron. Thank you, audience. We're gonna let you kind of walk away on this video, and I wanna once again congratulate our friend Marsha Dobrzynski for the Stephanie Tubbs Jones Neighborhood Leadership Award. And I want to congratulate the community education team at UCI and their work with all the educator partners throughout University Circle. Thank you for the work you do every day in celebration of students. And let's leave on that video and say goodbye till next time. Thank you all. And thank you, Ron, as well.
Are all really designed to engage our neighborhood schools, families, students, and teachers. And the idea is, because you have University Circle, which is this incredible campus filled with cultural, arts, scientific institutions, we support teachers who want to bring their students into field trips, and we provide and we pay for all of the costs related to those field trips. So not only do we pay for their admissions cost or any educational costs, but we also provide busing and transportation.
UCI has given our students the opportunity to leave the neighborhood they live in and explore the world. They've been able to go to the botanical gardens, to walk the art museum, to spend time at the Natural History Museum, to ride the carousel over and over again at the History Center. They've been able to really go behind the scenes and see things that normal visitors to the museum would never get to see in their experience there.
We've been fortunate to have over 70 students participate in Circle Scholars, and I can't tell you enough about the impact that it has had for our students. It has taken them outside of the four walls of the school building to enrich them on the different things that's in their neighborhood.
If they do Circle Scholars again this year, I would want to be in it, and I would want to help the new kids.
It's been great just to have the experience of getting everyone together and feeling like a real education community.
We do it so that families and students, teachers, even principals, whole school communities can take full advantage of the resources in University Circle. We think about it as building a neighborhood without borders.
Thank you again, everybody, for staying with us these last 90 minutes. Very important 90 minutes together. Again, celebration of our students, our UCI education team, all of our Circle partners, those who work at this every day, like Ron Ferguson and Marsha Dobrzynski, Greg Deegan, and the team. And thank you, board members. Thank you, community members, all of you who stayed on the line. It was asked of us when this meeting could be available, and it has been recorded, and that answer is in about 2 days. We should have it up on YouTube for your re-review if you need to, and to share with others. We hope you do. Thanks again. Have a great spring ahead, and we do look forward to that day we see you live in the circle. And we'll sign off with again, gratitude.